You can lead a life of increasing stupefaction. Always impress them with the opening sentence of your talk, and they'll listen for the rest of the time. It's a perfectly good word, stupefaction. Look it up in the dictionary. And when I said it, you got the stupid part, didn't you? Or, if you don't want to lead a life of increasing stupefaction with its heavy, dark blankets over your head, you can decide to do something about your perilous predicament. That's not bad in itself, too. Perilous predicament. I am really hot this morning, right? All you have to do is see that your life doesn't work. It doesn't, does it? This means that you're counting on something. You don't know what it is, do you? You're counting on something to do something for you. And you've tried considering the sudden upsurging of new brilliance on your part that will carry you to the heights of life, and that has never happened, and you don't think it ever will. That having failed, you then look outside and say, maybe someone out there can assist me in making my life work better at least. And you're in that state now where you're looking for a helper, a guide, someone who is smarter than you are. And your big mistake is thinking that there is someone smarter than you are. There is not, because everyone is dumb. They really are. Where did you ever get this? Is the heavens of enlightenment should open to you with this statement. Why do you think that another person, an expert or an authority, a leader of any kind, why do you think that he's smarter than you are? I'll tell you why. Because you want to think that, and you want to think that because you really know that your life isn't working and you've never been able to make it work. It's quite clear to you unconsciously, not knowingly, but unconsciously, it's quite clear to you that you're lost, that you're on the road to ruin. Now, of course, talk to people the way I've talked to you so far this morning. You talk to them about the road to ruin and they're going to object, aren't they? See, because they're so unwilling to do something that you're beginning to be willing to do, which is to know that there's no self-command in your life. There's no ease when meeting an unexpected situation. There is only ruination. That is, only running into something that's going to overwhelm you and ruin you for a few minutes or for a few hours. People object to a talk like this, object to the truth like this, because they say, why don't you talk about something nice? Why don't you talk about something that is pleasant? Question to you. Are you inwardly at the level where it's at least beginning to get clearer to you that real niceness is to know, without a dismaying emotional reaction, to know that you are indeed, in fact, on the road to ruin? Do you know that? And are you able to, if not, do it right now, please add to the fact of your knowledge of the road to personal ruin that it is the only nice information you can find, because now you're facing reality. You have heard 10,000 times in one phraseologies or another the statement, face the facts. Get off your lies and face reality. See things as they are. You've heard it many times. But it didn't penetrate. Because you, being younger, perhaps at that time, you thought that when someone criticized you about something you should have been criticized about, laziness in schoolwork, for example, you thought that that was a bad thing for you to be told. It was a good thing for you to be told. At the time, you didn't want to know that it was nice to be instructed by a teacher, by a parent. You didn't want to know that that was a nice thing. You are grown-up, adult human beings now. And that childhood and childish habit has to go. Now I'll repeat the original point. It is a beauty beyond comprehension, beyond expression, to know that your life is nothing but a pile of junk. Why? Why is it good to know that? Because that is the beginning of you no longer insisting on living an imaginary life with imaginary dream castles. And by the way, your dream castles alternate with dream dungeons, don't they? I've given you this point before, maybe it'll penetrate deeper this time. You really don't care which you live in, imaginary heaven, imaginary hell, dream castle, dream dungeon. You really don't give 2 cents which you dwell in, as long as you have a place to come home to when the bad little world out there hurts your feelings. You go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? Work's over. You go home, and all the way, you weren't being careful driving that car in that thick traffic. You know why? Because of that incident at the office where you work. The quarrel with someone and the boss in some way got in on it. Now you're worried the boss is going to make a mark on your record. Uncooperative employee, you're worried about that. What do you care whether you worry about getting fired or not? Or maybe another incident happened in which you were praised and he put a mark. This employee, cooperative and helpful, deserves immediate promotion and double the salary. You when you can dream, you might as well dream all the way, right? The point is, on the way home, and even when you get home, you don't know what it means to drop anything and start life over at the exact second. You go home, and as long as you can think about getting promoted or getting fired, you feel as if you're safe. I said, you've got a place to go home to physically first and also inwardly. That means you've got something to think about. You've got the road to ruin to travel on so you can feel like you're going somewhere, whether it's dreaming about the promotion or fearing getting fired. This is called living with self-sickness. This is called being all wrapped up in the delusory world of self, which has no real existence and no real need at all. What you have heard so far is nice information, not insulting. People who have chosen self-doom as their destiny, they call it unnice to be told the simple facts that could heal. Oh, I wish you would learn your ABCs so thoroughly that you could go on to the rest of the alphabet. By that I mean, I wish you would meet every event, no matter how embarrassing or shameful or discouraging. I wish you would meet it with the right thought. There are right thoughts. With the right thought, there is a lesson there. I don't see it, but I'm going to find out what it is. Instead of continuing to dwell in dream castle or dream dungeon, I'm going to see if there is an alternative place for me to dwell in inwardly. there is. You can't get out of the dungeon, you can't get out of the castle made up out of your own desires. You can't get out of it until you want to get out of it. And we're teaching you in this room how to want to get out of it by showing you, this is the ultimate reduction in words. We show you how to get out of your two wrong places by knowing that badness is bad. Badness being castle or dungeon of your own construction. Either one is a bad place to be. Humans are so sick, humanity is so insane, everybody thinks it's a good place to be. This is why I encourage you to watch the news. The only word, I tell you, and it's too mild a word, the only word to describe it is insanity. Some country and there's 10,000 people walking down the streets shaking their fists in unison, right? Shaking their insanity. That's their false heaven and their dungeon, whichever way they happen to go into. This is a good thing to shake your hand. And they feel, even when they feel bad about it unconsciously, they say that the bad feeling they have over being a hater is a good thing. Badness is bad. Now we'll even go deeper than that. Unseen, unconscious worries are bad for you. They'll destroy your health. They'll destroy your mind. They'll destroy your chance to be an awakened human being. So what you have to do is to be a Sherlock Holmes of the inner investigation, and you have to know when you drive your car home after that unpleasant incident, while you're driving your car and when you finally get home, you're to know simply, directly, that for you to be thinking emotionally and miserably about the incident at work, that is a bad place for you to be. Put a period after that. That's not, no. It's not a good thing to do, to argue and say, well, maybe the boss won't fire me. Maybe he'll blame the other employee. See, you're trying to make yourself feel good, aren't you? Zero in on that. Where do you try to make yourself feel good? It's pointless. It's useless. The reason you try to make yourself feel good is because you feel bad, and it really is bad, and you hope that some little hope, maybe the boss will fire him instead of me, that will make you feel better. No. Every action, every word, every emotion, every mood, every reply, every impulse that takes place in the deep, dark dungeon is bad. There's only one alternative for your life. That single alternative is to leave your life, lose your life, walk away from it, and walk away from everyone you know who wants to stay in the sick, miserable, dark dungeon. You can't have humanity and heaven. Make up your mind which you want, and you will have whichever one you choose. What have you got now? You know you don't have heaven. You've got humanity. Walk away. Oh, yes. Even your guilt over walking away from memories of your parents, friends, whatever, the memory of that, you're saying, I should cling, you're supposed to be loyal to your friends and to your parents most certainly. What are you talking about? Loyal to what? What are you talking about? Lies and deceits have been imposed on you, and you believe in them without having any intelligent, logical thinking about them at all. You're not supposed to be loyal to any human being. You're not supposed to look to anyone and say, it's nice knowing you. It's been bad knowing everyone. See, you laugh because you sense the rightness of that. Walking away means you have caught a faint glimpse of the heavenly sunlight shining down into your dark jungle. There's a travel sort of movie on TV the other night in which it was told about a jungle so thick, I think it was Central or South America, jungle so thick that certain places on the ground were bare. There was the earth and very rich earth, but nothing grew there because at these particular spots anyway, the trees and bushes were so thick, sunlight couldn't get through to it. So nothing could grow because it needs the sunlight. Same with us. We've so enclosed within ourselves that spiritual sunlight can't get through to cause awakenedness to grow, inspiration to grow inside us. Back to one original point of the talk. Your loyalty to God and your loyalty to you are the very same thing. Now we've got the word you to go into, right? Your loyalty to God and your loyalty to your finding the inner kingdom are the same thing. To be loyal to God means you must once and for all and forever be disloyal to what you are now, to the you of your present state. You never ever thought about it that way. Because you're conditioning with the word loyalty. I've got to be loyal to I've got to stand up for my rights. People who demand their rights are ruining the world and themselves, every single one of them. And you must have nothing to do with them. Look, a little side detour. You're really stupid. You're really contributing to the ruination of this world if you believe anyone who says, I have been treated badly and you owe me something. The first thing you should do is walk away. Run away from people like that. They're con men, they're con women, they're con groups. And they're going contrary to what is right for you. Now when you watch television and see people demanding some special privileges, I don't care who it is, whatever they are, you walk away from them and say, I don't owe you a thing. And you don't. One last chance to make you decide which you want. You want yourself as you presently are? Oh, how awful. You want friends who back up what you are? How dreadful. Do you want to break away? That's the question. Break away from yourself. Make the answer yes to that. Breaking away from yourself is to approach God. Whose existence and whose reality will become clear to you as the light breaks through the thick foliage of your past. And I'll use a word I rarely use. Once in a while, it's all right when you've built it up properly. Whose love you first sense. The seeing of the light of God is also the feeling of the love of God. It is an extremely rare, unique human being on this earth who really knows what love is. That individual, and this individual can be you, is one who had the spiritual courage to first find out what hatred is. If you don't know what hatred is, you'll never know what love is. Oh, here we go again. People say, oh, why don't you talk about love as if they know what they're talking about when they use the word. See, the devil is very, very touchy, very neurotically suspicious, very wary. When you start talking about hatred and hypocrisy and lying, he gets nervous and he gets hateful. You know why, don't you? Because the masquerade is beginning to be seen through, and it makes any person possessed by Satan, which is practically everyone, what are they possessed by? If it isn't Satan, by goodness, certainly not. Makes them very nervous. But you, as a dedicated student, are going to see what really rules this world, which is hatred in human beings. Now you will never, we have so many specialties here. You will only know your own hatred as you work with both your own and others. If you work just with others, then you become a self-righteous hypocrite yourself. The other person is sick and evil and hypocritical, but never you. If you see it in yourself, you will see it in the other person very clearly. Because this means that you're releasing yourself from an impulsive, compulsive need to express hatred as a means of saying, I live in a castle, and you don't, castle or dungeon, either one. The exhilaration of hatred, it's real exciting to hate, isn't it? That feels like heaven, right? Feels like to hate someone, revenge. And then the other side, when you've left the auditorium where you've hated another person, another group in a big talk, then you go into the dungeon at home and you want to end your life. You must, therefore, know that your road to ruin, one large stretch of it, is composed of the concrete of hatred. And I have to now define what hatred is. Hatred is an egotistical rejection of everything that is unlike itself. Love is the absence of hatred. You're facing the facts, the realities of your own hatred, seeing it clearly in the sudden upsurging of violence, feeling of violence towards someone, will enable you to be able to say what I said to you a minute ago. And I would like you to write it down. Enable you to know from yourself that bad is bad. Badness is bad. Use any sentence that makes it clearer in your mind. Let's take the one, badness is bad. Bad for who? Bad for me. When I have hatred, doesn't make a difference how clever I conceal it or push it down. If I have emotional violence in me, that's self-murder. It is. You'll wander around for days and weeks when you make that discovery. And you know what you'll say to yourself all week long? I can't believe it! And you'll pause for a while. An hour later, I can't believe it! You'll be absolutely stunned with the heavenly light that has revealed that you were... actually, factually, every second of your day and night, you were destroying yourself, and you didn't know it because you didn't want to know it. Now you can explain it a little to yourself. I see what it means by loving the dungeon, sometimes calling it heaven. I can see what it means now. Because when I'm taken over by any kind of a sour feeling, negative state, when I am taken over, I feel complete. There are no doubts. I know what to do. Despise that enemy. Hate him. Lie about him. Try to destroy him. I'm all powerful. Look at his eyes and your eyes when you're saying that, and you'll see the light of insanity there. That's what it is. You'll begin to understand insanity as you understand the dungeon, as you understand hatred, as you understand violence. All violence is self-violence. When you're involved in it, of course. What you're trying to do is free yourself from it. So you're supposed to be spending your whole life, trying to escape from what has captured you and tortured you. You know very well what's down in the dungeon. You've read stories about castles and dungeons and stuff. You know what's down there. The instruments of torture, some of them indescribably insane and vicious. Here's a man, let's make it you. Here's a man, here's a lady. They live in criminal land. Well, what do you know? We already do. So it's a factual story, not fiction. It's faction, not fiction. Not bad, huh? Criminal land is inhabited by criminals who go around doing bad things to other people, stealing from them, persecuting them, lying about them. I have to interrupt the story. Aren't you sick, more than sick and tired of human nature? You've got to be, which does not mean you're afraid of it or dismayed over it. Simply see it as the fact. You can see a dangerous gun, a loaded gun laying somewhere, and you know it's dangerous and awful, but you're not afraid of it because you're not going to go get involved. You're not going to pick it up and fool around with it and accidentally shoot yourself. This is what I'm talking about. Just know that human nature is a loaded gun ready to go. Isn't everyone you know, come on, everyone you know is a loaded gun. You tip the trigger and start, whoop, off it goes, right? Oh, how about you? How many are a double-barreled blunderbuss? Okay. Criminal land. Here you are caught in it, hurt by everybody. And you know now that you are in criminal land. See, when you were nothing but a criminal yourself, you called it honest land, delightful land, peaceful land. Always put the lying label on it so you can try to make yourself believe in it. You never will make yourself believe it. But this is lying with words. You decide that you don't want to be part of the criminal anymore, so you decide to escape. And the rule, which I'll cover briefly, when you try to escape, all the criminals are going to go after you because the very fact that you want to get out of criminal land is a rebuke and a reproval to their criminality, and they hate you for the exposure that your wish to escape arouses in them. You understand that. I know you do. You don't want to be around those sick relatives anymore, and you don't go to the reunions anymore. She thinks she's too good for us. She goes to church now. She's become religious. She don't want nothing to do with us anymore. Things like that. Fill in your own blank spaces with what your relatives or friends have said when you decided you didn't want to be with them anymore like you used to be. So you decide to escape. Now, this is the days of castles, so everybody rides horses. You get on your trusty steed and ride away, try to find some way to get out. They chase you. The application of that is hostile thoughts are afraid of you escaping so that they won't have a place to live. They've been living inside of your mind. And they're so comfortable. They're so securely ensconced. Huh? Look it up. I hope I got it right. But they don't want you to escape. So they chase the man. You're being chased by the villains on horseback. But you remember something. You remember that years ago, this is a person who came to class once 10 years ago and then left. Maybe this is him. We'll see. It is. You remember that there's the criminal land is surrounded by a big cliff. It's on a plateau surrounded by steep cliffs all around. But there's a bridge that goes across. So you head for the bridge, hoping to outrun them. And they keep after you and they knock you down lots of times. Have you been knocked down this morning already by the 4 horsemen of criminal land? You was wondering which way I was going to go on that, and I was too. You get to the start of the bridge. Ooh, wow. Little narrow bridge. It looks kind of frail. You're wondering if it's going to collapse underneath you. This is the way you view the escape route to true heaven. I wonder if God is trustworthy. That's what you're saying. You'll only know that, by the way, when the last bit of self-reliance, negative self-reliance, false self-reliance, has been destroyed. When you have nothing, no one to ever turn to anymore but God, then you will know that he's reliable, because it will be proven by God himself. He can't prove that he is reliable until you've proven to yourself that you are unreliable. So now you know which comes first. Come to the bridge, and you decide to chance it. No way you're going to go back. You don't like anymore to betray people and be betrayed by people, because you know that's the rule of criminal land. Hurt and get hurt. Betray and get betrayed in return. Cause someone to cry and someone causes you to cry. No more of that. So you go across, worried about it, right across. The horse is a little nervous too. You finally get to the other side. And you're worried that now you're on solid ground, the other side, and glad that's over, huh? You get over there, now you're worried that they're going to come across too and pursue you. I'll tell you, there is nothing in this world that is more malignantly persistent than evil. Look how it clings to you. Come on, get personal here. Look how it'll never let you go. It doesn't want to be put out in the cold. So you get on the other side, and you're worried that it's going to come across. Oh, this is rough. You got over it. Are they going to win after all? You've asked that, haven't you? Is badness, is misery, is worry going to win after all in my life? Am I ever going to make it? This is your state right now, too. I know that. Then you remember something that you learned 10 years ago. Well, you're right in the middle of criminal land, but a little bit of light came down and you understood something. You understood that when you get to the far side, there's something that you can do, that God is really doing, that will prevent evil from following you over and persecuting you anew. You see that there's a little switch on your side of the canyon, on your mainland, right at the point where the bridge is fastened to the mainland. You flip the switch, the whole bridge will collapse from your side and fall down into the canyon from your side and be gone. See the symbolism of that, first of all. Only God can cut off evil permanently. And once you cooperate with that, once you know that you can stop them from coming over by destroying the bridge, that means you're now living a spiritual, conscious, sane life. The bridge drops away and evil can't penetrate your mind anymore. Now, you go away safe. All right, now, what's the application? What are we talking about? What's the bridge got to do in it? One switch that cuts off all the criminals, whether they're thought criminals or human criminals, cuts all forms and varieties of criminal off, is for you to no longer fear the wrath I will say that again. To no longer fear the revengeful wrath of a hypocritical, insane society. Ooh, that's loaded with meaning. One way you finally escape is to no longer fear the wrathful revenge of having exposed the show, of knowing that criminal land is criminal land. Now, you fear the fury of those that you have exposed in your own mind. I don't mean you go around pointing at people and say you're an insane hypocrite, which would be self-righteousness, but you simply know it inside yourself. But there are certain physical actions and attitudes that you have to take that will arouse the revenge of the hypocritical mob, both inside you and in the social, physical world. I told you years ago, society will forgive you for any crime except one. They'll forgive you for murder. They'll excuse you from starting a war. They'll excuse you for anything. One thing they will never forgive is you pointing out that they are liars and hypocrites and agents of Satan. That's the one thing that's unforgivable in the kingdom of hell. It's the one thing they will murder any human being for. You go too far. You let them know what you know, and they'll come after you like the hell and all its fury released. The pent-up fury of it will spread all over you. It happened to Christ. He told them, with his special mission, he told the religious leaders and the political leaders what they were and what they do to them. You're not required to do that. You're not required to go through what he went through. You're required to go through what you went through. Christ set an example, a marvelous spiritual analogy of what you have to do. But you know the rule, never any imitation of anyone. God knows what special, particular spiritual experience you have to go through. And you must ask God to show you how you go through it. Back to the point. Now, you're so timid, so shy. Let me clear a point, which I made a minute ago, but let me emphasize it. Please, don't be so foolish as to brazenly yell out at the world that it's wicked and you're innocent. And what will prevent you from trying to fight the system overtly is your knowledge that it's futile and ridiculous to fight it overtly. Sanity is silent. Then, where you should do something or say something to someone, your own sanity will give you the wisdom and the judgment to who to speak to and who to shut up to. And guess how many you're going to have to shut up to? Common sense tells you, don't tell anyone at the family reunion, at the old grads reunion of 19 whatever it is. Don't tell anyone about New Life Foundation. They look at you blank. Oh. They want to talk about the time when you were both on the football squad and the score was 6-0 and your team had the 0, huh? In the last 30 seconds, the two of you charged through the enemy lines, made a touchdown, made conversion afterward for the extra 7-6. He's been that old God has been living in that moment of glory for 30, 40 years. What's the moment of glory that you're thinking of? It always switches over. Oh, that happened 30 years ago. When am I going to score another point? You're always wondering how you can get it back. Your new nature doesn't need it back or want it back. Okay, from pure memory, if you go to the reunion, talk about the last-minute football score, but know that it happened then and has no connection with you now. All fear of revenge and retaliation by an exposed world, all fear will be non-existent in you. You know why? Because God is not afraid of the devil. That's why. And you're living from that light that's finally penetrated the forest of your own thick beliefs. You're living in that light, and you now know one of the most common expressions you've heard in this room, which is don't kick a sleeping tiger. Kick a sleeping tiger, he wakes up, what's he going to do? It's his nature to go after you, isn't it? So you know better than that. You also see how impulsiveness, which is the same thing as mechanical, blindfolded behavior, can you see that impulsiveness is what causes you to make mistakes? Even in common things down to your office, not necessarily connected with the spiritual life, but with your work life. You make mistakes because you're impulsive. All that disappears. And you live from a pure intelligence that is always there to tell you what to do and what not to do. Wouldn't you be very happy if you had a warning and guiding voice inside of you that just says, you're faced with a choice that says, don't do that. Okay to do that. Don't do that. Okay. Wouldn't that be delightful? See, your problem is you have to think. And when you think, that's a tragedy all by itself, isn't it? Then when you think, you have to think again, and think again, and think again. Fact, spiritual fact. Thinking has its proper place, its place will become increasingly clear to you. Thinking has no place in the higher spiritual life. So let the bad thinking you're doing now be replaced by spiritual seeing, and all will be well. Good morning. To obtain spiritual healing, you must submit yourself to spiritual healing. It is waiting for you, spiritual healing is waiting for you to do just that. You have failed to perform a necessary action by which you can make contact with what is pure and true. You have failed to make contact, therefore it can't help you. Another way of stating what every human being has to do is to surrender his secret sins. You know what they are. You know what they are because you live with them. And they nag you. And they make you nervous. And they divide you. Can you think of a secret sin, can you bring it up to awareness at this moment? There's a lot to grab in the grab box, isn't there? It could be a refusal to simply study yourself, which is a basic principle. It could be a justification for leaping out with the wrong reactions and answers when confronted by something. It could be a refusal for you to know that you prefer to give error instead of the right reaction. The idea of secret sins, of course, makes everybody nervous. Right now, just now, here, you're not very jittery. You're not delving into yourself enough to do that. You're listening to the talk, which is correct, the correct thing to do, but you're to take the guidance that you're getting in this talk so that when you leave the room and you're more on your own than you are here, you're submitting to right authority here, the authority of truth, not to me, but to truth. You do listen to what I tell you so that when you go out, you will take the guidance you have been given so that you can get far more nervous than you are now. Far more worried about where these studies are taking you so that you can confront the worry. That could be the surrender of a secret sin. Your refusal to even see you're worried about understanding yourself inwardly as you actually operate. The idea of a secret sin comes out in movies and novels, doesn't it? And you've seen a lot of them. The corrupt policeman who is a phantom burglar at night, leading a double life. The respected club woman who's blackmailing someone. Nobody knows that the cop is going out, and in the day he upholds the law, at night he goes out and breaks the law. The woman down at the clubhouse giving and listening to the nice lectures on how to better this world, she's leading a secret life. She has a secret sin by blackmailing someone. Now that may not be your crime, but what is it? How about, I've got a good one. How about you continuing to behave as if you must be afraid? That's a secret sin. And I'm going to help you to toss that out right now. There is nothing you can think of. There is nothing that exists that you need to fear, that you need to tremble before. I said there is nothing. But now you do the opposite of that and you take everything. Not more than an hour ago, I was walking out in front, down the sidewalk a little bit, and I came to an alley. And just as I came up to the alley, I was on the sidewalk and came up to it, a wandering stray dog came toward me from the alley, and he looked up at me and got scared. I didn't know I looked that bad. You know, you've seen dogs do that, especially wandering strays. He went jerked back like that, and he looked up suspiciously, and he got real close to the side of the wall of the alley and managed to slink by and go out. You probably saw him out there wandering around. The other gentleman who was out there watching things. He wandered around, always alert, always on guard, lest someone come over and hit him, beat him. That's been his past experience, right? I know, and you know, you have been beaten and you have been abandoned. Oh, don't miss the next thought, please, so that you don't take what I said wrongly. All abandonment is self-abandonment, every bit of it. If you're wandering around like that stray, reacting with fear with everyone and everything you meet, is because you have chosen to abandon your growth into the spiritual life where there's only strength. Where there's no... I know very well how that sounds to you when I tell you, and I tell you the truth, that there is not a single trembling, a single anxiety in your life that you presently have that you need to hang on to. And did you hear how I said that you need to hang on to? You think you do. I wasn't going to hurt that dog, but he was afraid of me because it had happened in the past. We don't know what his past canine history was, but we do know that something made him especially fearful and nervous, and a neurotic dog yet. Something happened to you. And you have not taken the time to understand how that is controlling your life. You don't have any notion at all of what it means to live right now by the clock at 10 minutes to 7. You don't know that at all. That slapping from your mother, you remember that? Getting beat up by your older and bigger brother, remember that? The humiliation you had in the classroom, oh, you remember that one, don't you? And those grades were passed out, tests were passed out, and you looked at yours, and everyone else was smiling or sighing with relief, and you couldn't do either one of those because you saw what you got, the score on your report card. That is falsely alive in you now. That is why you slink around in the alleys of life worried about what you're going to meet next. Look, how can I tell you except tell you directly? You don't have to be that way anymore. Not one of you. I don't care what your past has been. I don't care how firmly that shame hurt you 8 years ago, 30 years ago. What has the past got to do with right now? You, in your ignorance of spiritual truth, want to keep it alive. Therefore, you want to be afraid. Therefore, you don't hear me when I say you don't need to be afraid, because that becomes a priceless possession to you. I'll give you a little chance for rumination while we're in this room. You're supposed to laugh a little bit. If you, at this moment, dropped all tremblings, all inclinations to cry, if you dropped that altogether, what would happen to you? You fear the answer, and I'm telling you the answer is, if you dropped it, you would have eternal life. You know why you'd have eternal life? Because you would be one with eternal life. You'd be one with the spirit of reality of truth. You don't, well, I better tell you, and you had better listen, not with anxiety, but with interest. You react with interest with what I'm going to say next. You don't have eternal life now. None of you. You can have it, providing you'll stop being a phony. Providing you will sacrifice your secret sin of being a phony. Providing you just give it up. Providing. Let's take the club woman. She thought she was getting a value out of blackmailing that other person. Well, on the surface, she was a respected, nice lady. She thought she was getting something valuable from it, but she wasn't. She was simply getting punished. Wherever you are divided into the smiling exterior person and the inward suffering person, that must be seen by you, observed by you, acknowledged by you, and simply surrendered. And the surrender comes when you do see it. The seeing is the surrendering, which means all you have to do is be honest from now on. No more lies. You have to do it in small ways. I know you can't take giant leaps, but I'll tell you what I'm talking about. How many of you smile not simply because it's a natural expression, but because you feel it's the right thing to do in order to keep your image in place? You just observe that. I see it all the time. You see it all the time. I don't say as you go and scowl, of course. I say to you that when you are in the world of people, you notice the little automatic, spontaneous, unspontaneous tendency you have to smile, because you have a certain amount of psychological knowledge, and you are figuring, without knowing you're figuring, if I smile at him, he will see the smile, and he will say, there's a smiling person, therefore there's a nice person. Why do you want him to believe that when you can't believe it yourself? There's no way you can believe you're nice. You know that. You know better. I'll tell you a very interesting story, and this is more of a build-up of what we're talking about. Once upon a time, there's a boat sailing the Pacific Ocean. And this big ship, more than a boat, a big ship, sailing along nicely on the way to delivering its cargo to the port. Great, fair weather, no problems. This is a true navigation story, marine story. At a certain point, the captain began to wonder what was happening. I noticed I smiled a minute ago. Did you notice that? No, not being it. All of a sudden, the captain looked at his charts and his compass and began to worry about the progress of the boat on the ocean. And he couldn't figure it out. Calm sea, no storms, compass was working right, the steering wheel was working right, everything was fine. But the boat was straying off course. Didn't know what to do about it. Finally, it got so bad that the boat was going in practically the opposite direction of what was intended. And that scared him. Lost control. Finally, it straightened itself out, and he finally got to the port. A second ship, the very same thing. Third, fourth, fifth. Till all these captains finally got together, and they said, what's going on here? We get to a certain southwest by north point in the ocean, and the boat goes crazy. What's going on? And it's cost us time, cost us wasted fuel, very inefficient operation, as well as being a painful mystery. That was a long time ago, maybe 200 years ago. They solved the mystery, and we're talking about psychology now. What had happened is that this boat, every boat, when they approached this certain area of the ocean, they sailed into an underground current. And they didn't know much about navigation in those days as they did now. But when it got caught in this current, the current took the boat and turned it any way it wanted to take it. In other words, there was no control in the boat because the current was stronger than the power and the steering gear of the boat itself. So the boat would go even in the opposite direction of where it was intended to go. They finally understood that and avoided that, got rid of it by avoiding it, till now they have steamers so powerful the current has no authority over it at all. Underground currents. Spend the rest of the day pondering that phrase. An underground current is the same thing as an unconscious impulse. an unseen desire, a concealed weirdness of any kind. Anything that you, in your ignorance of the process of self-healing, anything that you have not allowed yourself to understand. When they understood that what the current was there, it was no longer a problem to them. You are a problem to yourself. Raise your hand internally. You all know you are. All right, externally is fine. You can go like that if you want. And I'll tell you something else. Raising your hand, either externally or internally, could be an act of phoniness on your part. See how honest I am? And underneath you refuse to see the current. Why would anyone refuse to study the underground current of their own life? Why? Because you think that you're going to lose control of your life if you investigate yourself. You think you're going to lose control, and you have no control and never have had. What do you have? We'll pursue this with this question. What do you possess now that you refuse to surrender? The identification of it is necessary. And I told you an acknowledgement of it will be the same as the surrender of it, because then you understand the adverse current that takes you in wrong ways. I'll tell you the grandparent of many of your difficulties that are unseen. Refusal to admit that you're going in the wrong direction. What if the captain lied and said, well, I wanted to go in the opposite direction? He'd be deceiving himself, and he'd never solve the problem. Once he knew there was a real difficulty there, they finally solved it. The same with you. Within every human being is a layer of stubbornness, of vanity, of conceit, which, as long as it remains unseen by you, you are going to continue to feel as bad as you do. You're going to be on the verge of bursting forth in terror or weeping all the time, which you are inside. What do you suppose this talk is all about? Let me tell you what the talk is all about. It's about you allowing everything that is now valuable to you to be shattered and destroyed. Oh, but that doesn't sound right to me, you say. Everything that's valuable to me. Now, see, now I have to explain that you're all wrong about what is valuable. You call it valuable because it's your pet neurosis. And you call that something that you have to cling to. I tell you, I'm just repeating a truth that has been prevalent since truth was on this earth, which is as long as the earth is. I tell you that you have to lose everything that you fiercely and frantically cling to. The very fact you cling to it means you are suffering from it and smiling on the inside. You're smiling on the outside and crying on the inside. Unless you listen to what I'm telling you this morning about the need for you to stop lying. Please stop lying. If you don't stop lying, you have doomed yourself. And you'll never, ever be a nice person. You'll be a bad man. You'll be a bad woman doing bad things to everyone else. When's the last time you ever did anything good to anyone else? The last time is no time. You never have done anything good for anyone else. All you've done is trade your neurotic needs with the other person, and that's bad, that's not good. You see, I have to tell you this. the idea, even the idea, the right idea of being kindly is utterly foreign to you. It's not a part of your life. You're too scheming to be good. You're too divided. You're the nervous spy in a foreign land. Of course he's nervous because he's a spy in a foreign land. You're a spy, aren't you? That means you're working against you're actually working against your true interests, calling them doing something good for yourself, making progress, or calling it holding your own. Not a bad phrase to consider, holding my own. You're not quite sure whether you're going to get more happiness or more people to approve of you, but you hope that you can hold your own and not lose what you've got. Don't you see? Are you listening to the talk? Listen to the talk again. When I tell you that, I'm not going to hold back. Unless you lose everything that now seems necessary to you, unless you lose it, you're going to be like that stray dog I told you about. You're going to continue with that, and it's going to get worse. And you'll never find your way back home. That dog will never find his way back home. Now we're talking about human beings. The reason you don't find your way back home is because you don't want to go back home. You know that? You know that? You don't want to go back home. You want to be astray. The God of this universe, the creator of heaven and earth, wants you to do something, and you want to do the opposite. You want to go with the adverse current. You want to do what you want to do instead of what truth is trying to tell you to do. So let me ask you a question. Please answer it. I ask you to answer it individually. The question is, what are you living for? I'll give you a little time to go over it. I ask you, what are you living for? Now you personalize it and ask yourself, what am I living for? You're struggling for an answer. Of course you are, because you don't know. The trouble is, you know 1,000 things you're living for, and they're all wrong. You're not living for them at all. You're living against yourself, thinking that this little collection of you that you have is something that's good and permanent and necessary to you. The abandonment, the surrender of your belief in that you know what you're living for, the surrender of that will give you the right thing to live for. You know what the right thing to live for? To not live for your own will, to not live for your own desire. The study of your constant nervousness, pain, anxiety, is necessary in order for you to understand the talk today. And especially for you to understand that there is a force, we call it God, call it reality, that there is a force that wants to prove to you that it is more intelligent than you are. What's the matter with you that you're slamming the door in its face? Let's try that one again. God, with whom you're not acquainted, wants to come into your life, wants to give his Spirit to dwell inside of you, to prove to you that its intelligence is the only intelligence, that its strength is the only strength. But you fearfully slink around the alleys of life, reject that thought, because you believe in what you call your supreme intelligence, which is actually supreme stupidity. It is stupid to suffer. How much plainer could I put it? If you're anxious, you're idiotic. If you have to scheme and plan to hold your own, you're a dumb, conscienceless man or woman. Now you know how to identify yourself properly as a lost, strayed, stolen human being, because you've allowed yourself to be in that state. What would be wrong? I'm asking you a question. What would be wrong for you to surrender your secret belief that you know what to do with your life? What would be wrong with you surrendering those thoughts that you now live by and swear by? What is wrong? There's nothing wrong. I want you to find that. So I'll ask it again. What would be wrong for you to surrender your secret hostility? Hostility! You are loaded with it. That's the underground current that changes your boat of life north, south, east, west, in a dozen directions in one day, so you don't know where you're going, but pretend that you do. Hostility, grouchiness, flaring up, telling people off, demanding that other people listen to you crab and complain. How about the hostility of imposing your stupid hostility on another human being? I told you you're lost, and that's the evidence. I told you kindness, insight, gentleness, compassion is the last thing you possess. The first thing you possess is stupid anger. All underground, all unsurrendered, all cherished, because it gives you instant reaction and what you stupidly call protection when the world advances toward you. Just like that dog I was talking about. I wasn't going to hurt him. He was afraid because it is his nature to be afraid. And if you are afraid, you're also hostile. I'll tell you again, always connect hostility and fear. Always connect the two, because they always are connected. And you simply alternate in the external expressions of one or the other. A crying person is a viciously hating person. Yes. Well, I think we better look a little more on that awful unsurrendered habit you have of pushing your neurosis onto other people just by walking around among them. Unless you become a nice person and stop imposing your sickness on others, you won't have anything to live for. You won't correct the madness of your life. Now you cannot go another minute being what you now are. You can't go another minute, because that would be a minute wasted in which you could be surrendering your inner hostility and allowing the Spirit of God to come in and save you. Badness, suppressed evil, concealed sickness shall never inherit the kingdom of heaven. You better listen to what I'm going to tell you next. The spirit of hell shall never inherit the spirit of heaven. Don't you know what you have settled for? I better tell you what you've settled for. You've settled for hell. You like it. You like to quarrel. All right? Give up quarreling. You'll never ever quarrel again. You will never ever be so rude as to hurt another human being in any way, the smallest way. I mean the smallest. You are not allowed, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you are not allowed to one more time make that sarcastic remark to someone, or that snarling glance at someone. You are not. Oh, the kingdom of heaven isn't 90% pure and innocent. It is 100%. Oh, the standards that you have to set up for yourself. And that's good. When you consciously set up a standard because you know what a wretch you are, that is good, because that increases your awareness of the difference between you as you now exist and what you could have. Remember I asked you to make a couple lists one time, a month or so ago, something like that, so that you understand that you, as you are now, can only inherit and re-inherit the kingdom of you. Now, to get the jolt out of that, you have to see how you smile and don't mean it. What a hypocrite I've been all my life. I'm a little Weasley hypocrite. Hypocrites have no future. What has a future is a hypocrite who says to himself, you know, I went to that talk. Oh, I didn't like most of it. But something slipped through. In spite of me trying to keep it all out, something got past my defenses. And what got past was the idea that I was a hypocrite, which I hate hearing. But what I caught was the fact that maybe, just maybe, the fact that I'm such an unbearable, horrible human being to my wife and children, maybe the fact of my stupid, cruel behavior connects with the fact that maybe I'm a hypocrite. Oh, that is the beginning of spiritual intelligence. Because you're saying, I'll rephrase what I just said, you're saying, okay, all right, I will surrender my lie that I'm not in pain, and I will admit that I'm always ready to hit someone, the slightest offense. And there is a certain pain in that. Yeah. I don't physically shake. So there's a certain pain in that. And I heard that the reason I'm nervous is because I'm a spy. I'm betraying the people I'm among. That is, I'm betraying my own real nature. I'm nervous because of that. So, if I simply acknowledge that I'm a hypocrite. Maybe, see, you don't know, this is intelligent thinking, maybe if I cease to be a hypocrite, I'll cease to suffer. That's right. That's true. The acknowledgement that you're your own worst enemy, the facing of it, pulls away the veil of delusion and allows you to understand that you have, how old are you? That number of years, you've done nothing but throw away your life. You've thrown away your life. What are you living for? The only thing to live for is to wake up. This is to see that previously you've lived for nothing of real value. Stop lying. If you won't stop lying, there is no hope for you. If you won't stop lying, there is absolutely no hope for you. None, none, none. You're gone. Goodbye. Get out of here. Get out and stay out. I don't want you here. Get out. You will listen to what I said, and you will either stop destroying yourself, or you can go over to your same old life before and suffer from it. You either take this tough stuff, or you get out of this class. You know something? I will absolutely guarantee that you'll do one or the other. Isn't my box back there going to be filled with thank you notes after the talk? Did you ever hear anything more rightly exciting? That I have to make a choice? Yeah. You have to make a choice. And what you have to do is undo your present choice and make a new one. A wrong choice can always be corrected, providing you listen to the talk. I know what's going to happen to every single one of you in this room. You would fall off your chair if you knew how well I know you and you and you and what's going to happen to you. I know precisely what's going to happen to you. And I just told you. If you will surrender your secret egotism, if you will proceed in spite of hating and fearing what you've heard, which you do. You fear and hurt, you fear and despise what you've heard this morning. See, I know you. You can't lie to me. You can lie to yourself. You can't lie to me. If you will simply know that you're nothing but a wretched little hypocrite, having destroyed yourself up till now, you don't care 2 cents who else you destroy. Wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, you don't care. You have no conscience. Want to stop feeling bad? Want to go all the way through the miles and miles and miles of your hell in order to get out of it? I'll show you how. If you rely on yourself, if you trust yourself to save you, your idea of salvation is the same as your idea of more destruction. Your idea of salvation is an idea of destruction, and that's what you'll experience. The spiritual heat, the spiritual temperature in which you now live, will get hotter and hotter and hotter until you won't be able to bear it anymore, and you will disappear from the face of the earth. On the other hand, if you want your spiritual temperature to be what is right, what is healthy, I will personally help you to stop destroying yourself. And the first thing I have to do is to prove to you, and let you prove it for yourself, that that's what you're doing. But if you don't want what I'm telling you, all of you in this room, all of you listening to this talk wherever you may be, if you don't want what you're being told, if you don't want decency, if you don't want health, if you scorn health, then you can do that. But let's say that some of you here want the kingdom of heaven more than you want your present kingdom of hell. I'll help you. I'll show you how to do it. I'll show you how to uncover dark forces that you'd never believe are operating in this world. See, you're unconsciously afraid of yourself. You don't even understand. You have no idea of what I just said. No idea at all. You are afraid of your own nature. But because fear is not compatible with your self-proclamations of being brave, then you don't want to see that you're afraid. And if you can't see that you're afraid, you can't see the monsters behind the fear. The monsters of your monumental egotism. One chance you have is to come here to this class where no one in this room, no spirit in this room, right spirit in this room, will put up with your lies. You tolerate them. You tolerate your lies. This room will not. I won't. I will never, ever, ever tolerate the smallest lie from any one of you. What are you going to choose? You're going to choose to surrender your lies to the truth that's spoken in this room. You're going to surrender your lies to that truth so it can destroy your lies. Or are you going to go out here with increasing pain and sorrow? It is too late. You have heard this talk today. It is too late. You came here. Now you're going to have to make a decision between heaven and hell. If you want to change your decision from hell to heaven, you can do so. Come back to the next talk and I'll tell you more all about it. Good morning.